Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the noon stream, where we will talk a bit about news across the NHL and also get some sort of preview for tonight's game against the Hurricanes. Jameson says, "Morning, y'all. No Jarvis and Slavin for the Canes tonight." So they'll be down a couple of players, I see. I'm taking over for my dad. I'm covering for my dad this afternoon. He's not feeling quite well, but I'm here. So, how's everyone doing? I see that the games today include Penguins, Leafs, Stars, Red Wings, Rangers, Capitals, Canadiens, Bruins, Sabres, Sens, Devils, Islanders, of course, Panthers, Hurricanes, Predators and Wild, Flyers, Blackhawks, Mammoth Avalanche, Flames, Oilers, and Sharks, Golden Knights. Hello, Skylar. Yeah, let's beat the Canes again and again and again. Hungry Xenomorph, going all right. Can't really complain. Apparently, there was no Samo or Greer at practice today. Good grief, what's wrong now? So, I'll bring up a couple of news stories. Apparently, Brandon Montour hurt his hands and he's out for at least 4 weeks after having hand surgery. As if the Kraken needed any more bad news. And Crosby has surpassed Mario Lemieux as the Penguins' top scorer. The Maple Leafs fired assistant coach Mark Savard. It's the Maple Leafs, as of the article being written, had been second to last in the Eastern Conference and in the basement of the Atlantic after losing 4 of its past 5 games. Apparently, Toronto's power play currently ranks worst in the league at 13.3%. The Maple Leafs have recorded the same number of power play goals, 2 for 27, as they've given up shorthanded goals, 2 through 10 games in December. That is god-awful. Derek says, "Hello, Kyle." Chat and picture of Roy Scheider. Hello, Derek. Yeah, the Leafs doing everything except what they actually need to do to fix things. David says about Crosby, he might have more points, but he will never really pass Super Mario. Not a new haircut. I did take a shower this morning, and I always comb my hair afterwards. Hello, JC. How you doing? Jameson says, sitting here at the passport office, you had your Panthers toque on. An Oilers fan sitting next to you started chirping you. He was a nice dude, though he gave you an Oilers sticker. Hey, that's pretty cool. Looks good anyway. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so my dad made me aware of this absolutely hilarious petition that's on change.org. Apparently some poor sap with nothing better to do seriously made this petition: demand NHL action against Florida Panthers dangerous play. And what makes this even better is this is clearly an AI generated image where this guy plays for Fantail. They couldn't even find an actual picture of a Panthers player. They had to use some AI generated slop. So this is the issue. Yeah, your friend sent you a link of that petition. Yeah, Mackey and Greer not skating at practice. More injuries. Let's see. My personal plea, and I would have to assume that if they were willing to AI generate the picture, I bet this is also going to be AI generated slop. My personal plea: I have witnessed the Florida Panthers execute reckless, dangerous, and malicious plays that have harmed numerous players across the NHL. This has been a recurrent pattern for years and has gone largely unpunished. No fines, no suspensions, no accountability. Each game brings the risk of injury to talented athletes who give their all on the ice. Like many NHL fans, I am frustrated and distressed at this ongoing injustice. We rely on the NHL to uphold fair play and ensure safety for every team and player. Our shared love for the sport compels us to demand change. The alarming reality of recent NHL seasons. Recent seasons have seen a troubling rise in injuries attributed to reckless plays from the Panthers. Players have been sidelined, some with long-term effects due to unchecked aggression on the ice. The absence of reprimand from the NHL is not only unfair, but sets a dangerous precedent for future conduct in the league. A sporting body should champion integrity, not turn a blind eye when its principles are violated. A call for concrete action. It is vital for the NHL to enforce stricter punishments against teams that engage in dangerous play. The implementation of targeted fines, suspensions, and reviews will hold everyone accountable to the league's ethos of fairness. Oversight should be reinforced with an unbiased disciplinary committee ensuring impartial assessments for all violations. Evidence of past incidents. Statistics and reports confirm a pattern of aggression that demands immediate attention. Numerous accounts from widely respected sports analysts and injury reports provide verifiable evidence of the Panthers' misconduct. Reviewing game footage and consulting expert opinions offers a clear view of the need for intervention. Join us in making a difference. If you, like me, believe in the principles of fair competition and player safety, I urge you to support our cause. Let your voice be heard in the call for the NHL to address this pressing issue. Together, we can insist on a league that respects every player, ensuring that our beloved sports remains not only competitive but also safe. By signing this petition, you add weight to a growing outcry for justice and change in the NHL. Let's hold the Florida Panthers and similar teams to account and protect those who inspire us on the ice. Please sign the petition and join the movement to foster accountability and fair play in the NHL. So yeah, how much you want to bet that this is some butthurt teenager Maple Leafs or Lightning fan, or maybe an Oilers fan, or it may not even be a hockey fan at all. Maybe just someone looking to troll, because this is clearly AI generated, and I bet all of this text is AI generated too. 81 signatures. That's all you need to know. Oh, your money is on Canes fan. That's a good guess. Flower Feet says it was 100% a Canes fan. Well, yeah, the Canes, some of the more immature Canes fans would have a good reason to make that petition. Hello. Tampa won last night. Good for them. David says, I think it's not good to give ignorant crap like this the time. Yeah, just as long as none of you people sign the petition as a joke, we should be good. Flower Feet says they're making a big deal because Crosby is mad about the Panthers injuring Jarvis before the Olympics. Now, where did you read that? Because I'm sure it would have been massive news if Crosby had publicly stated that he was mad about the Panthers injuring Jarvis. Yeah, Jaws is I'm covering for him. He's not doing the best. Real Cinema says Crosby called a Canes broadcaster about the Jarvis injury. That's all you heard. So yeah. It's sad. Honestly, that petition is just sad. It's hardly even funny because they didn't even put in the effort to pick a Florida Panthers, a real Florida Panthers player picture, and they clearly had AI write all of that tripe in the description, but I mean, it's just yet another example of the ways in which the Florida Panthers uh, drive certain sections of certain fan bases to madness. Either that or that is a pretty good. It's an attempt at trolling, but it's I'd rate it I'd rated 1 out of 10 for actual effort. And the 1 instead of 0 is being generous. Flower Feet says the Canes and Bolts fans are out for blood, and our next 2 opponents are, guess what, the Canes and Lightning. So I'll take a look at the standings here. Unfortunately, our loss and half of the division winning, it puts us back in 5th place in the Atlantic, tied with the Sens at 40 points, having more regulation wins. The bad news is that Boston's 1 point ahead of us. The Lightning and Habs are 3 points ahead of us, and the Red Wings are now 5 points ahead of us. The good news is that we have at least 1, if not 2 games in hand on all of these teams. And it looks like only the Red Wings, Canadiens, only the Red Wings and Canadiens are playing tonight. So we'll actually continue to have at least 1, if not 2 games in hand on them. Let me take a look at the wild card standings. It puts us in the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, just 1 point behind the Bruins, 1 point behind the Devils, and 2 points behind the Islanders. Wow, the Islanders have fallen all the way to a wild card spot. The Hurricanes still are best in the East, but now the Flyers have actually taken 2nd place in just over the Capitals thanks to a game in hand with the same number of points. And of course, the Red Wings, Lightning, and Canadiens make up the top of the Atlantic. And the Maple Leafs are now dead last in the entire Eastern Conference on a 3-game losing streak. They are 1 point below the Blue Jackets and 2 points below the Sabres. The Sabres are actually on a 6-game win streak and just 3 points out of a potential wild card spot. Colin says, Bob is in net tonight and there's no lineup changes. Colin says Pomo that said that Sambo hopefully is back for the game against the Bolts on Saturday. What about Greer? Yeah, I heard about the DK Metcalf suspension. I also heard that could potentially cost him the rest of his season's salary and potential big guarantees in his contract. Now, in the West, the Avalanche are at 59 points on a 5-game win streak. The Stars are at 55 points on the 4-game win streak, and the Wild are still in third place in the Central. Then the Pacific, the Ducks have actually taken first place in the Pacific. The Golden Knights and Oilers are now tied at 42 points. The Kings have the first wild card spot with 39 points, and tied with them in the second wild card spot are the Utah Mammoth. So the Sharks are just outside the wild card at 37, and then the Blues are the only other team within 5 points. Excuse me, within 2 wins. The Blues are the only other team in the West within 2 wins, 4 points of a wild card spot. The Kraken, Preds, Flames are all at 34 points. The Jets and Canucks are at 33. The Blackhawks without Connor Bedard have fallen all the way to last in the West at 32 points on the 5-game losing streak. Yes, that is correct. I am running the noon live stream. Jaws needs some rest. He probably will be good to go for tonight's game. It's Panthers Hurricanes. He would have to be deathly ill to miss it. I think. Vanija thinks the Zavard firing was just pointless. Toronto was freaking out. Well, Zavard was in charge of the power play, from what I understand. And that's the worst. It's the league worst power play. Not only is it league worst power play, through 10 games in December, the Leafs have scored as many power play goals, 2 for 27, as they've given up shorthanded goals in that same stretch, too. Now, I probably will not be making pancakes tonight. David says, I think it'll cost the Steelers coach's job, as it looks like his players don't respect him, the team, the city, or the game. I still think it'll be a cold day in hell before the Steelers fire Tomlin. Flower Feet says, Leafs fans want Nylander and Berube gone too. You think Stolarz has been hurt, but they were calling for his head earlier? David says, wait, you mean the Leafs let their best assist guy leave and it hurt the power play? What? Yeah, Berube brought that assistant coach with him from St. Louis. All right. So So I guess what I should do now here, I'll share the screen here, and maybe we should talk about the current standings. The current standings for the East and West, and discuss which teams you believe are contenders and which are pretenders. Specifically looking at the teams that made last year's playoffs that are currently out of a playoff spot, and vice versa with teams that missed the playoffs last year that are currently in a playoff spot. So you've got the Atlantic, where the Red Wings of all teams are currently at the top with 45 points, and then you have the Lightning and Canadiens. The Canadiens being good is really not surprising. They were a really entertaining young playoff team last year. I'm still glad they got knocked out by the Capitals, as I was really hoping Columbus would get that last wild card spot. So I would say the Canadiens and Lightning are true contenders from the Atlantic. From the Metro, Hurricanes clearly still a contender. The big shock right now is seeing the Flyers of all teams. The Flyers have been so frustrating in recent seasons. I don't know if the Flyers can keep this up. And ditto for the Islanders. The Islanders, can Matthew Schaefer really be what they need for them to return to the playoffs just like that? The Devils, if they would ever stay healthy, are a dangerous team from the Metro. The Capitals, as long as Ovi is dealing, they will almost always be a contender. And then you look at teams like Boston and Florida and Ottawa, all of which are currently out of a playoff spot. You have to assume that at least two of those three teams will get their playoff spots back and probably knock out a team like the Islanders or the Flyers in the process. Then just says Montreal is still young. Watch for them in a couple of years. David says if Chucky is healthy, you fear no one in the East in a 7-game series. You also said, in fact, with Chucky, but no Sasha, you think we make the Stanley Cup Finals but might not win it all. David says the Leafs are out. The Red Wings will fade. Lightning another first-round exit. The Habs still need another scorer. Well, the Hurricanes are... Oh, yeah, the Hurricanes are without Jarvis. What about Slavin? I heard he was also hurt. How crazy would it be if Buffalo made the playoffs? It would be hilarious, as I think that would make it so that the do the New York Jets already holds the longest active playoff drought, regardless of the Sabres? I don't know where the 6-game win streak is coming from for the Sabres, but this is not unusual. If you recall, the Sabres, what always does them in is the sheer lack of consistency. They will go on these torrid hot streaks and then fall off the face of the earth and absolutely crater to, say, lose 13 games in a row like they did last year, which that effectively killed their season dead by December, by this time of the year, I think, last year. Again, going back to just division standings, if you ignore the Red Wings at 45 points and the Hurricanes at 47 points, and then you also eliminate the bottom teams with the Leafs at 35 and the Blue Jackets at 36. That is 14 teams. 14 teams in the Eastern Conference are separated by no more than 5 points. That is literally the difference between second place in the Atlantic, and next to last. It's even a smaller gap in the Metro, where it's just 4 points between the second place Flyers, tied with the Capitals, and the next to last Pittsburgh Penguins. The Eastern Conference is just a gigantic mosh pit where no team, aside from one or two at the top and one or two at the bottom, can truly separate. Incidentally, what is going on in Columbus? How are they struggling so much? You have less points than the Sabres. That should be a massive alarm bells ringing. You're only 1 point ahead of the Leafs. I mean, just compare using a similar metric. The Stars are a whole 22 points ahead of the Winnipeg Jets, and the Golden Knights are a whole 8 points ahead of the Flames. The Central is just stupidly stacked. The difference between third place and fourth place in the Central is literally 10 points. There's basically 3 halves in the Central, and the rest of the teams are have-nots. Teams like the Mammoth and Blues will be scraping by trying to get the wild card, while the Wild, Stars, and Avalanche, barring any massive collapses, will just be cruising right on ahead to their scheduled playoff berths. Flower Feet says Team USA all fighting each other for Atlantic Division playoff spot. Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, and McAvoy at least. Buffalo's tied with the Jets, New York Jets, for longest current playoff drought at 14 seasons. Well, I think the Jets... Haven't the Jets just made it 15? Which means if the Sabres would have to miss the playoffs again to tie that streak. Canes or Panthers? I think the Panthers might... The Panthers have had the rest. Panthers might be able to take care of business again. Out of all the teams mentioned, says David, you think the Habs are in the best spot. They add a McGopher and they'd be a problem. Hello, Dietrich. Yeah, imagine Buffalo in the playoffs and the Leafs are not. The Dangle meltdown would be epic. Yeah, the New York Jets have yet to intercept a pass this year. Has there been any defense in the history of the NFL that has gone 14 games, let alone 16 or 17 games, without a single interception? Every conference gets 2 wild card spots, but it can come from either of the 2 divisions. Yeah. David says the Canes can't beat the Cats. It's in their heads. Cats 5, Carolina 2. I like your thinking. Dietrich says there's some wishful thinking that Panthers' salary cap could be prorated with Tkachuk and the Barkey injury, making them cap compliant for the playoffs. Look, most likely Tkachuk is coming back. Tkachuk is coming back, and Barkov should be coming back for the playoffs, which probably means Rodriguez will have to be benched. David says, I was stunned, flabbergasted even, to see the Broncos just getting worked by the Jaguars. The Broncos have been relying on miracle drives and incredible defense all season long. The Jaguars chose to be the best version of themselves this week, and yeah, I can't say I paid too much attention to the football after, the Dolphins lost in the way they did. How bad? Yeah, Jacksonville winning 34-20. Also, shame on the Indianapolis Colts for bringing back Phillip Rivers, who threw a 20-yard touchdown pass on the first drive, was slinging the rock all game long, and got betrayed by terrible defense, just like in the good old days. Who are my early Super Bowl picks? Give me 1 second. Okay, for the NFC champion, just flip a damn coin between the Seahawks and the Rams. Both of them are looking deadly. They played an instant epic a couple weeks ago as well. And for the AFC, I'm going to say Patriots, because recent results, the Jaguars have been doing well, but they have not been. Jaguars have been doing well, but they've still had some ugly losses this season. Broncos got exposed. The Texans still need to prove they can run a consistent offense. And don't get me started on how the Bills and whoever decides to win the AFC North is going to fare. And, the Chargers, Herbert is yet to win a playoff game. Why not? Since the NFL loves their Super Bowl rematches, I bet this year's Super Bowl is going to be Patriots Rams, or maybe Patriots Seahawks. David says, I know Buffalo looks strong, but they will choke because, well, Buffalo. Real Cinema says, you think the Patriots are frauds. You think the Bills finally make it and play the Seahawks or Rams. The 2008 Lions went 13 games with no interception. The Jets broke the record. The 89 Cowboys, 99 Browns, 2014 Chiefs with 12 games with no interceptions. Am I a Trevor Lawrence fan? Well, I don't hate him. He got selected first overall by a absolutely horrendous Jaguars team, was nearly ruined by Urban Meyer, and then helped foster one of the greatest playoff comebacks we've ever seen to humiliate the Chargers that one year, and went toe-to-toe with Mahomes and the Chiefs in the divisional round that year. The Jaguars, from what I understand, are one of the most frustratingly inconsistent contenders in the AFC right now. Like, they will spend long stretches of times looking like the best team in the AFC, and then you'll watch them collapse like a house of cards in real time to a team like the Texans. A week ago, you thought the Texans defense would be enough, but then they almost lost to Vegas. Hang on a second. I think I hear a delivery truck. Give me a second, folks. I just have to see where they decide to put the package. I have. Okay. All right. Sweet. I've been expecting the delivery. Dietrich says, side note, the Leafs had only 12 goals out of 90 power plays, and they allowed 4 shorties, making them really 8 out of 90 chances. No wonder that coach was fired. What has a better chance of happening this year, asks Kazuma. The Bills win the Super Bowl or a Canadian team wins the Cup? probably the Canadian team winning the cup. I mean, the Oilers did make it to 2 Stanley Cup finals in a row and nearly pulled the comeback from a 3-0 deficit. You have to say Canadian team winning the cup just because there are so many Canadian teams that the odds have to be statistically skewed towards one of them winning the cup versus the Bills, a singular team, winning the Super Bowl. If you wanted to have something more interesting, maybe you should ask what's more likely, the Bills winning the Super Bowl, or the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup. So, okay, so I guess I should talk about the Western Conference a bit. Here we are. So, the Avalanche are, they're at 59 points already in 35 games played, 26, 2-7, only 2 regulation losses. A plus 61 goal differential. Plus 61. They literally, their goal differential is greater. Their goal differential is greater than the number of points they've had on the season through 35 games. That should be a statistically improbable, right? Like, that speaks to just endless numbers of blowouts, endless blowout wins for the Avs. They're imitating the President's Trophy Bruins team quite swimmingly. First round collapse yet to be determined. The Stars are looking solid. The Wild, getting Quinn Hughes might help ensure the Wild not just maintain their playoff spot, but also they, depending on what happens, let's just say it is Stars Wild in the first round again. Do you believe that the Wild have a chance of finally making it past the first round? And then you have the Pacific currently being led by the Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks, do you think the Ducks are contenders or pretenders? Have they finally turned things around, especially with all the trades they've made, all the young players they've acquired through draft or otherwise, through Coach Q? Are they going to remain a top 3 team in the Pacific? Bird Person says the Wild have a good chance to beat the Avs. Well, the Wild are going to have to beat at least 2 other teams first. Probably. The Wild are probably going to have to play the Stars in the first round. The Avs are shooting way too early, just like the Bruins a few years back, when it's physical time in the playoffs, they'll get tested. Who is going to stop the Avalanche? Let's say Mammoth or Sharks in the first round. So the Golden Knights and Oilers are currently tied at 42 points. Is there actually a chance we won't have yet another Oilers Kings matchup in the first round? Perhaps the Kings will stay in that first wild card spot. And you have a whole gaggle of a handful of teams with realistic playoff hopes. Just look at the wild card right now in the West. The Mammoth currently have that second wild card spot. And then behind them are teams like the Sharks and Blues. And then you have all of the disappointments. Teams like the Kraken, Predators, Flames, Jets, Canucks, and Blackhawks. Are any of those half dozen teams I just listed, Kraken, Preds, Flames, Jets, Canucks, and Blackhawks, which one do you think has the greatest chance of overtaking teams like the Blues, Sharks, and Mammoth and actually getting that last wildcard spot? I am honestly shocked that the Jets are now tied with the Canucks. Is there an injury or injury bug I'm not aware of in Winnipeg? How are they floundering this badly on a 4-game losing streak? What is going on in Winnipeg? Bird person says the Kings are a total waste of a playoff spot. Disgusting. David says a guy like Otter or Bob can literally win a series or even the whole cup. See Wah and Broder. Oilers versus Avalanche, round 1. Well, the Oilers would have to fall all the way to the last wild card spot, which is a possibility. If the playoffs started today in the West, you would have the Avalanche facing off against the Mammoth, the Ducks against the Kings. Ooh, an interstate first round. An in-state first round matchup. Anaheim and LA. I would love Anaheim and LA to battle it out in a playoff round. And then you'd have Stars, Wild, and Golden Knights, Oilers. Matchups we have seen in recent years. Derek says you wouldn't look at the playoff race until February. Bird person says it's a shame how far off the Canucks and Rangers fell. Well, the Canucks and Rangers sort of brought some of that upon themselves. Both organizations seem to have fostered a culture rife with interpersonnel drama and theatrics. Derek believes trading Kreider hurt the Rangers. David says it's great to see it. Kyle hope Jaws starts feeling better. Gotta run. See you tonight. Let's freaking go. Yeah. Well, I still got another 5 minutes or so before the hour ends. I mean, Derek, I suppose you are right that the playoff race doesn't really kick into gear until like February or so. Color me flabbergasted that the Sabres actually have the best active win streak right now in the NHL. Even the Avalanche have only merely won 5 in a row as opposed to the Sabres winning 6. Are the Sabres playing to save their jobs or something? Like Kevin Adams finally got the boot as GM. Are the Sabres having their own Miami Dolphins arc? How bad have their last 6 opponents been? Okay, so Oilers, Canucks, Kraken, Flyers, Islanders, and Devils. None of those teams are better than wild card, except for, funnily enough, the Oilers and Flyers. But none of those teams are exactly contenders. In the case of the Canucks and Kraken, they're outright terrible. Hell, they had previously been on a 3-game losing streak and also losing 5 out of 7, losing to teams like the Penguins, Devils, Flyers, Jets, and Flames. Derek says teams will have that winning streak in January that makes them go from last to in the playoffs. Ow. Pardon me. Let me scroll back down here. I don't need to share the screen anymore. Patelron says maybe you may not know this Panthers player, but you had a patient the same last name as former Panthers player Jesse Belanger. Hey, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I guess there's really not much left to mention. Anyone got any way too early predictions for how the game will go tonight? What the score will be? Patel Ron asks, will it be a fight night in Carolina since there's a Carolina player on IR? Things might definitely get chippy in that game, that's for sure. So, all right, I think I'll go ahead and sign off now, since I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. And yeah, I'm sure that Jaws will keep you posted In any circumstance, we should see you tonight at 7 for yet another exciting chapter in the Canes versus Cats. Yeah, everyone seems to love the fight with Greer. And apparently Greer is good to go, but Samo apparently has to wait until at least the game against Tampa. All right, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. See you later tonight. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.